Hi! On the Woodpecker today, I'm making round boxes for the electronic circuits I made, which give me the weight of the dust in my cyclone. Now that I have my new combo, I don't throw my shavings onto the floor anymore. I vacuum them into my cyclone. But I have no way of knowing how much dust there's inside it if I don't open it and take a look. At least before I was able to throw it on the floor and pick it up later on. I could put a strip of plexiglass, but this would weaken my cardboard barrel. On my other cyclone, I can't see anything through the plexiglass. So I decided to use the electronic circuit board I designed and waste 2 weeks programming a scale. But I will need a box for these electronics. With Aspire, I draw a round box. Here you can see the outside edge and the lip for the back. These boxes will be made of several layers of plywood. For the top, I draw a box the size of the LCD I'm going to use. I also have to take into account the LCD's PCB and the hookup, so I will need some pockets. I also put everything I need for the lid, so I also draw another pocket for the Wi-Fi module at the back. All this is neat, but we don't see the final result. Here it is. Each layer will have an exterior round cutout. Each of them will have its special shape. The front has a square hole for the display and some pockets for the PCB. The middle layer is the simplest. It only has an exterior cutout and a hole in the center. The last layer of the box is pretty similar to the middle one, except that it also has a pocket to allow for the space of the back lid. Speaking of the lid, here it is. Nothing too fancy, just a deep pocket to allow space for the Wi-Fi module. Now I need to cut this, and this is the ideal time to use those oddly shaped leftover pieces of plywood. And it's a go. First of all, the front, followed by the other layers, and the back. All done for the first box. I just need to cut all the small tabs. After a little sanding, I can glue 3 layers together. Clamp this and wait for the glue to dry. But while the glue dries, I can take care of the second box. As a matter of fact, it's all the same. I still have a lot of oddly shaped pieces of plywood, so I'm going to use those for the base of my scale. I just need to cut 12 like this one. Yes, this is the first one of 12. Here you can see all of them. This was also made with Aspire, and it's super easy. I draw 2 circles and a line at 60 degrees. I copy this line 6 times, taking care to set its rotation with the center of the circles. Then I erase all the unnecessary lines and redraw some to join the sides of the shape. This is the shape I have to cut on the CNC. But to be able to glue all this together, I need to cut all the tabs. Then I put all the first layer in place and spread glue on top. Next, I put all the other pieces for the second layer on top. To clamp this, I only use gravity. So after making sure the plywood won't stick to the base, I put a lot of heavy stuff on top. Even this bucket full of lead. Yes, it's really full of lead. Now that the glue is dry, I can sand the exterior. But here I realize the sensor's holes are not big enough. I fix this. Now that they fit, I can mark where to drill the screw holes and drill them. Next, I try one in place, just to see how this will look. But I need something here to make sure the barrel will only sit on the sensors. For that, I use the rest of one of the handles of the turning tools I made. After being sure it's still around, I make a dome shape at the end. The only thing left to do is cut it off. But I need 3 like that. When I have all of them, I drill a counterbore hole for the screw. And here's what the barrel will sit on. Now it's time to check if the lids are okay. I put all the electronics in place and the cover on top. No, I did a lousy job. Here you can see the indents the Wi-Fi module made on the plywood. I need to widen the pocket. Perfect. Now I need to repeat this for the other lid. I don't have a lot of space to screw the lid on, besides these 2 spots. I mark the lid and drill some screw holes. With the lids in place, I can mark where to drill the screws pilot hole and drill them. After screwing the lid in place, I can go to the sander and remove all the exterior tabs. But all this sanding burned the plywood. So I put a soft interface pad on my sander and remove the burn marks. After all this, I wipe a coat of linseed oil on both boxes. While the oil dries, I can finish the base. I noticed that I forgot to leave a small ledge to hold the electronics that go inside the base. So I remedy that right now. As you can see, I have 3 sections with the shape of the interior of the base. I just need to glue them in place. While the glue dries, I can drill the holes for the magnets I intend to put at the back of the lid. This is perfect. I just need to glue them in place. I also need to drill a hole for the wire that goes inside the box. Perfect. I only need to solder the connectors now. But I still need something to hold the electronic components inside the base. Here it is, all the electronics will be on this. All done. The 3 sensors, converters, and the power supply. Now I can put the sensors in place. Not too difficult. I also screw the small pads and plug the sensors into their converters. Now it's time to try this. Okay, nothing blew up, and I can even see my welcome screen. That's a good sign. Since everything seems to work, I glue the display in place. It's way easier to push on the touchscreen like that. But before putting this in place, I'm going to make some tests. First thing to do is go into the menus and reset the weight on the scale. With this cauldron filled up with 10 kilos of lead, I enter into the menus that this sensor has 10 kilos on top. I do the same thing for the other two. Then I switch the display to see only the total weight instead of all the sensors data. I make another test with all the lead I have in my shop. My scale says it weighs 27.5 kilos. I'll check with the old mechanical scale I keep in the shop, just to see. It says 65 pounds. 65 pounds is actually 29.5 kilos. Not bad, it's close enough for the use I intend to make with this. Now I just need to install it under the cyclone's barrel, put back all the pipes, and plug it to the wall. Let's see the result. Okay, all of this weighs 16.5 kilos, but having the weight of the dust near the barrel is not the ideal setup. So I'm going to put the second module here, just beside where I create the actual dust. I make a little test before I put it into its box. Like I was expecting, it works. I just need to put the power supply and the current sensor inside the electrical box. Here you can see the sensor. It's the blue plastic thingy. Just like for the other module, I glue the display in place. That's my receiver. I only need to plug it. Here's the weight of the barrel. Yes, because 16 kilos is the weight of the barrel and pipes. I have to reset the scale. Done. It's time for a little 10 kilo test now. Not bad. I'm super happy. I even have this beside my tools also. But this is not all this module does. When I start a tool, it also gives me the value of the current. I even added a small pictogram of a saw. At this moment, the circuit transmits the code to start the dust collector. This function only made all this programming worth it. And when I stop the tools, it continues vacuuming for the default time I've set inside the menus. For now, it's 30 seconds. If I start the table saw, I can see the current is about 10 amperes. My combo, with its 5 horsepower motor, runs about 15 amperes. Whatever the current, if it's higher than 5 amperes, it will start the dust collector. These were the 2 boxes I made to weigh the dust in my barrel. I'm super happy with the result. I love my boxes and also the rest. And see you soon for another episode of the Woodpecker.